He had always been unpleasant to look at, but he had never been cruel. He lived a mundane life as a typical office worker, doing his best despite his unattractive appearance. Shy Drew wasn't flashy or popular, but he treated others with decency and lived within his means. That life ended the moment a woman on a crowded train falsely accused him of groping her. Society judged him instantly. No one looked past his face to hear his side, and he soon found himself dragged into a legal battle. Hoping to put it behind him, he accepted a small penalty by pleading guilty, only to lose his job and his reputation. His label as a criminal stuck. Years passed, and eventually, the woman who ruined his life was exposed for setting up multiple men. She didn't do it for profit, just for twisted amusement, targeting those she found unattractive. Though the truth surfaced, Shy Drew had already lost everything. The incident left him broken, and he sank into isolation. He burned through what little money he had left, and even his parents' financial support dried up. With no hope in sight, he became a recluse. One day, while scrolling through the news, he came across a report about strange disappearances in his area. He half-jokingly wished he'd vanished too. Scanning the comment section, he found a bizarre post from someone claiming to have visited another world, but returned to Earth after allocating their stats incorrectly and sacrificing half their lifespan. Desperate, Shy Drew followed the odd directions in the comment, thinking it was nonsense but too hopeless to care. As the clock struck 2, and he stood with arms raised, his laptop flickered, displaying an unusual prompt: "Do you wish to start a new life?" Thinking it was some sort of prank, he clicked next. The next screen revealed that he would begin a new life at 16 years old, and allowed him to customize his stats, including appearance. Tired of being ugly, he slid the appearance score into the negatives, down to -255, unlocking a massive pool of bonus stat points. He then discovered a disturbing feature: the worse he made his character's life, the more stat points he gained. He began stacking penalties, reducing his income by 10,000%, losing 10% of his HP upon contact with any girl, and finally, adding a fatal condition: if he ever lost his virginity, he would instantly die. That last sacrifice netted him an astronomical reward, 100 trillion stat points. Just as he was about to assign them, the timer on the screen hit 0. His consciousness was yanked away. When he woke up in the new world, he found himself even more grotesque than before, and with a body weight that dwarfed the average American. Just then, a few more people enter the room, and Shy Drew awkwardly looks away upon noticing the two girls in nothing but their undergarments. One of the guys, confident and attractive, takes off his shirt and gives it to the girl trembling from the cold. Trying to act respectfully, Shy Drew follows suit and offers his own shirt to the other girl. However, she immediately rejects it, calling him an ugly fat loser and refusing to wear something he's touched. The charming guy introduces himself as Seiji. The blonde, petite girl keeps her name to herself, while the other girl tells them her name is Seika. They all mention they're 16 years old, but the girls are skeptical that Shy Drew is the same age. Seiji then steps up and confirms that all of them seem to have arrived in this world using the same method. While the others talk, Shy Drew starts searching through the room. He's not interested in making friends. He opens a drawer and discovers a gold coin, but the coin vanishes as soon as he touches it. He figures it must be because of the condition he selected about reducing his starting funds. Still, he brushes it off. Shortly after, Seiji enters the room and suggests they all gather supplies together. They come across some weapons, clothes, and a few more coins. Shy Drew doubts the clothes will fit him, but to his surprise, they magically adjust to the wearer's body size. Later, the girls start discussing how to split the coins. They count 7 coins but notice there are 8 people present. Suspicion falls on Shy Drew, and he quickly realizes that the missing coin must have been the one that disappeared earlier. Instead of defending himself, he says they can keep all the coins. Seiji objects, saying it's not fair, but Seika insists that since Shy Drew didn't help in finding them, he doesn't deserve any. Shy Drew already finds her annoying but keeps calm and turns his attention to Seiji, asking if he can trade the coins for an axe. Seika immediately protests, and even Seiji says he can't make such decisions on his own. He admits that in his past life, he had selfish tendencies and poor communication skills but wants to change in this one. He also hints that Shy Drew has his own issues to work through and encourages him to start improving. Eventually, they agree to split the weapons using rock, paper, scissors. Shy Drew loses every round and ends up with just a wooden club. Later, Seiji suggests a handshake to mark the beginning of their journey, but Shy Drew declines, he's not taking any unnecessary chances. Soon, they find a map that leads to a nearby town. But when they open the door, they are immediately confronted by a small goblin ready to strike. Seiji quickly reacts and slays the goblin in one hit, but then sees more enemies approaching. Taking charge, he asks the blonde girl to back him up on the front lines while Seika prepares her bow to assist in the fight. Shai Drew tells Seika to stay behind and protect herself while he deals with the goblins alone. Despite the warning, Seika proves to be completely inexperienced. She can't even manage to string her bow. While Shai Drew silently judges her lack of skill, a goblin sneaks up behind him and launches an attack. Shai Drew intends to eliminate it quickly, but to his shock, his current strength is pitiful. The tiny goblin manages to force him back. Confused as to why he's so weak despite having assigned himself 100 trillion stat points, he suddenly recalls he never actually finished allocating them. With no time to fix that, Shai Drew decides to face the goblin with what he currently has. After a brief struggle, he brings it down with a clean strike. As soon as the creature is defeated, a system screen appears, revealing that he has skyrocketed to level 32 from just that one kill, thanks to a massive 10,000% experience boost. Around the same time, Seiji and the small girl level up too and start pumping their stats into strength and stamina. Shai Drew notices that no one else can see his system interface and decides to distribute 1 trillion points to each of his attributes temporarily. The moment he does that, his system begins to glitch and he's enveloped in a golden glow. Perplexed, he wonders what's going on, then the system announces his new class, selected based on his immense stats, the Almighty God. Shai Drew is stunned and can't fully comprehend what this title entails. Before he can process it all, another goblin attacks, but this time, its strikes have zero effect. Curious, Shai Drew tries out his new power. With a light flick of his finger, he sends the goblin soaring into the atmosphere. Strangely, no one seems to notice what just happened. They all assume it was just a strong gust of wind. Seiji and the little girl continue fighting goblins, while Seika is still fumbling with her bow, nearly in tears. Feeling a bit sorry for her, Shai Drew pretends to be obsessed with bows so she doesn't feel embarrassed. Claiming he urgently needs to string one himself, he tricks Seika into handing it over. With his absurdly high dexterity, he strings the bow in an instant. Impressed, Seika asks him to shoot an arrow as a thank you. Shai Drew agrees and chooses one of his newly unlocked skills, Thunder Arrow. He fires it, but it doesn't hit any goblins directly. Instead, it shoots into the sky. Confused about his aim, he watches as a massive magic circle appears overhead. Out of it emerges a colossal thunder dragon that slams into the battlefield, annihilating every goblin present. The others are left in awe, but Shai Drew plays it off, claiming he learned that trick in archery club. Seika, ever gullible, believes him without question. She then tries to help in the battle by firing arrows randomly, while Seiji and the small girl decide to clean up the remaining enemies. Meanwhile, Seika quickly uses up all her arrows. Feeling down about her repeated failures, Seika grows frustrated with herself, while Shai Drew watches sympathetically. Using a skill, he transforms a stick into makeshift arrows and points out a few dropped items on the ground. Seika cheers up and grabs them, but ends up wasting everything again. Meanwhile, Seiji and the others finish off the goblins with ease. Soon they make it to town. While the rest of the group rushes off to grab food, Shai Drew quietly slips away, believing that someone as awkward and unwanted as him doesn't belong with them. He finds a quiet spot by a fountain and sits, stomach growling. Just then, a cat walks up to him. He reaches out to pet it but hesitates, worried it might be female and cost him 10% HP due to his curse. Out of nowhere, Seika appears, startling him so badly that he falls into the water. When he climbs out, soaked and miserable, Seika hands him a burger. She bought it for him as thanks for his earlier help, knowing he can't afford food. Shai Drew starts warming up to her kindness and takes the burger, but when their fingers touch, he's hit by a violent shock, launching the burger and him both away. The damage is catastrophic, enough to destroy the world multiple times over, but worse than the pain is the look of disappointment on Seika's face. She believes he rejected the burger on purpose. Thinking quickly, Shai Drew falls back on his old silver-tongued ways from his salesman days and tells her he flinched because of her beauty. He says he truly does want to eat the burger she gave him. Seika, still moved by his earlier help, says that one's too dirty now and gives him hers instead. While he's eating, Seiji and the lowly bunch show up, and Shai Drew decides to stick around until he can repay Seika for her generosity. Later, Seika runs into trouble again. She's out of arrows and rushes into a shop to buy more. She insists she can pay, but the shopkeeper says her inventory is full. Shy Drew is with her and wants to help, but he hides the fact that he can create arrows himself. When Seika asks if he's not buying anything, she quickly answers herself, remembering that he's broke. Outside, Seiji and the others come back after securing an inn. Shy Drew says he'll stay in the park since he can't afford a room, but Seika insists on paying for him. When he protests, she teases him with a guilt trip, asking if he really won't let a girl treat him. Before he can respond, she grabs his hand and pulls him along. Fortunately, since she touches him through his clothes, he takes no damage. That night, Shy Drew stares at the ceiling, thinking he can't stay here forever and live off their charity. Even with his income being slashed to 1,000th of what it should be, he's determined to earn something on his own. And just then, a new idea sparks in his mind. The following morning, Seiji and the group are greeted by the sight of a table full of tasty snacks and fresh meals. Shy Drew cheerfully invites them to join in, saying he can't possibly finish it all on his own. Curious, they question how he managed to gather so much food without any money. Shy Drew explains that he used a clever trick that encourages others to offer something in return. In reality, he simply crafted some arrows out of sticks and traded them through bartering instead of using currency. Seika, concerned, tells him that he doesn't have to go that far just because he's short on funds. She'd gladly help if needed. But Shy Drew believes he's already settled what he owed her, so he doesn't feel obligated to stick around anymore. After finishing the meal, Seiji brings out a map and says it's time to take on some quests to start earning cash. He notes that the creatures they fought the day before didn't leave behind any loot or coins, so he's set on exploring a nearby cave. Shy Drew praises Seiji's strategic thinking. Right then, a rugged-looking man appears and offers to guide them to the cave. He introduces himself as Kayashiro and claims he, too, is someone who has been reincarnated. Upon seeing Shy Drew's unusual appearance, Kayashiro is momentarily startled but quickly composes himself and asks if they're all newcomers. Seiji gets up cautiously to speak with him. Kayashiro then pulls out several green cards, explaining that these were items found at the initial log cabin. Using one provides a free stay at an inn. Seika becomes alarmed upon realizing they never found those cards. Kayashiro reassures her that it's still possible to redeem them and offers the cards without hesitation. She quickly accepts, surprising Seiji, who remains suspicious of Kayashiro's motives. Shy Drew also feels uneasy, suspecting Kayashiro might be someone who takes advantage of new adventurers rather than genuinely helping them. Still, Shy Drew trusts that if anything goes sideways, he can handle it. He allows Seiji to decide. After thinking it over, Seiji concludes that hiring Kayashiro is worth the risk. They need both guidance and faster ways to grow stronger. Kayashiro leads the team to the cave, where a group of goblins appears. Seika immediately starts shooting arrows, but none find their mark. Disappointed, Shy Drew watches as Kayashiro gives her a strange piece of advice. Imagine each arrow is worth 1,000,000 yen. Although she's usually proud of her wealth, visualizing the high value makes her take the shots more seriously. Her focus improves, and she successfully downs a goblin with a precise hit. They continue deeper into the cave, and Shy Drew finds himself impressed. Kayashiro is actually proving to be a capable guide. Later, Kayashiro gives tips to everyone on how to properly wield their weapons. However, Seika slips back into her old habits, launching arrows recklessly. Kayashiro then asks Shy Drew why he's not practicing, and Shy Drew simply replies that, for now, he doesn't have any useful combat skills. Kayashiro understands that progressing in levels while wielding a staff is no easy task, but he reassures Shy Drew not to feel discouraged, emphasizing that the staff's ultimate ability is truly extraordinary. Shy Drew already knows what he means. He once encountered a massive orc while collecting materials for his arrows in the forest. Curious, he attempted to use his most powerful skill, but the system intervened with a severe warning. Activating the move would obliterate everything within a 200-kilometer radius, potentially causing over 1.5 million casualties. He wisely chose to cancel it. Kayashiro, meanwhile, advises Shy Drew to stay proactive in battles, warning that inactivity may lead to being sidelined, just like what happened to him. He starts reminiscing about his past, when he was part of a mercenary team. While their leader eventually rose to kingship, Kayashiro ended up having to step down. He holds high praise for the king, claiming he's at level 80 with all stats exceeding 160, though this doesn't impress Shy Drew in the slightest. Soon, they arrive at a cavern resembling ancient ruins, sparking excitement in the group, except for Seika, who's visibly nervous. But upon entering, curiosity takes over as she examines the limestone formations, only to pout when Kayashiro warns her to steer clear due to potential danger. Shidru starts questioning if Seika is truly just a child, and Seiji brings it up more tactfully. Seiji reveals he was 30 years old in his original world. In response, Seika admits she's actually 17 and studying for her college entrance exams. As Seiji shifts the conversation to academics, Shidru realizes Seika is at least quite intelligent when it comes to studies. They then encounter some bat-like creatures and make their way to the boss chamber, where Seika finally starts grasping the importance of caution and planning. Kayashiro stops her from barging in, warning her she'll be instantly killed if she keeps acting so recklessly. She listens and steps back. Seiji suggests they wrap things up for the day and expresses gratitude to Kayashiro, who responds by saying Seiji is suited to be a leader. Before they head back, though, Kayashiro has one more thing in store for the newcomers, a surprise event. He leads the group to a special meeting room, a secure zone crafted by another summoned individual, where monsters and magic can't intrude. Inside, snacks and drinks are laid out for celebration. But Shidru quickly becomes suspicious. His poison detection ability reveals that the rims of the drink cans are laced with a sedative. Seiji refuses the drinks out of caution, but when Kayashiro appears genuinely hurt by the distrust, Seiji apologizes and agrees to join in the celebration. Shidru is quietly disappointed by Seiji's kindness. As everyone begins indulging in food and refreshments, Shidru initiates small talk to keep the mood light while secretly preparing to cast antidote spells. He casually asks about their lives before arriving here, and the atmosphere immediately turns heavy. It dawns on him that nearly everyone, including himself, was escaping something in their past. Then, breaking the silence, Seiji chooses to share a bit of his own history. He confesses that he dropped out of school after losing interest and went on to establish a startup called Success Life. The name rings a bell for Shidru. He recalls once pitching a product to that very company, and the CEO bore an uncanny resemblance to Seiji. It turns out Seiji hasn't forgotten either. Shidru left a lasting impression on him. Though Shidru doesn't admit who he is, Seiji recalls a mysterious salesman who showed up uninvited, trying to pitch an overpriced copier. The salesman claimed he could bring a smile to his face and never let him down. He also told Seiji to take it easy since he was the boss. Those words struck a chord, and Seiji ended up letting his team take the reins of the company. At first, things flourished. His business thrived, everything seemed perfect, until he made a drastic decision to replace all his staff with artificial intelligence. That move backfired terribly, driving the company into bankruptcy. Seiji was crushed, burdened by guilt that he squandered the opportunity that salesman gave him. Since arriving here, he vowed never to let anyone down again. Then he suddenly reveals something shocking. The name of that salesman was also Shidru. But our chubby protagonist denies being the same person. Right then, everyone begins to pass out from being drugged. Kaisho enters with his goons to capture them. But Shidru is only faking sleep, waiting for the right moment to act. As the thugs begin cuffing everyone, Shidru prepares to strike, but Seiji suddenly rises and warns them not to hurt anyone. Kaisho brushes off the warning, knowing Seiji can barely stay on his feet, and instructs his men to continue. Shidru holds back, worried Seiji might get caught in the crossfire. But Seiji still tries to resist and ends up getting slammed into a wall. Kaisho tells his crew not to damage the goods or their value drops. That remark infuriates Seiji. He speaks up, saying the people here are already broken by life, and when they finally get a second shot, people like Kaisho just shove them back down. Kaisho tells him to save the speech and orders his men to pack him up. At that moment, Shidru jumps into action. Instead of using flashy moves, he body slams the thugs, crushing them under his weight. He tells Seiji to escape with the girls and leave the rest to him. But Seiji refuses to leave him behind. He warns the goons not to mess with them, saying he can end this in a single hit. Naturally, they think he's bluffing. The attackers rush forward, but Shidru bounces around, soaking up their attacks like a sponge and flattening them. Kaisho tells his goons to take care of the bouncing pig, and Seiji urges Shidru to get out of there while he holds them off. The thugs pile onto Shidru, even shoving their fingers up his nose, but still can't take him down. Then, a glow bursts from Seiji's palm. He tells the goons to step away, or his light of truth will strike them down. Shocked, they ask what kind of skill this is. Seiji explains that he once made a solemn promise in his special notebook to never betray his friends. If he ever did, he'd pay dearly. That vow earned him massive bonus points, which he channeled into a unique skill that activates when he's enraged. He warns the thugs that this is their final chance to leave, but Kaisho scoffs, saying they'll just slice off his hand before he can use it. Shy Drew, curious to see Sage's ability, volunteers to shield him. They decide to fight together, realizing they're outnumbered. Then, Seiji unleashes his hidden power, transforming into a glowing form even Goku would envy. He tells the thugs their judgment day has arrived. Seiji launches into a dramatic and over-the-top speech that makes everyone in the room question their life choices. He claims that his deepest emotion stirred awake a hidden identity slumbering within him, and with it, the mysterious awakening of his third eye. Now donning the persona of the winged hero Aldine, he dramatically announces that he's about to face his first major battle as a protagonist. Meanwhile, Shigeru stands off to the side, absolutely baffled by what he's witnessing. Just like every stereotypical anime lead, Seiji loudly declares the name of his attack before actually doing anything. But Kiyoshiro and his gang of hired thugs just stare, confused. They have no idea what Seiji is talking about or what any of his attacks actually do. Then, out of nowhere, Seiji halts mid-punch. Everyone freezes, unsure of what just happened or what he's thinking. Kiyoshiro straight up asks what his deal is, and Seiji responds in the most self-righteous way possible. Justice should be served by the law, not through personal revenge. Even though he has the power to end it all right now, he restrains himself. He tells Kiyoshiro that he's offering a chance at redemption, surrender and answer for his crimes properly. It's not the brightest plan. Even the most clueless person in the room realizes how dumb this is. Predictably, Kiyoshiro fakes surrender, and when Seiji lowers his guard, he lashes out. Luckily, Shigeru jumps in at the last second, using his incredible pig-like reflexes, only to get smacked around for interfering. But Shigeru doesn't care, he literally starts picking his nose mid-fight. Then, with no one watching, he flicks his booger so hard that it crashes through a wall. Everyone turns in shock, and Shigeru blames it on Seiji. Terrified by the supposed strength of Seiji's power, Kiyoshiro and his gang decide to give up for real this time. Kiyoshiro breaks down and begs for mercy, promising they'll never hurt anyone again and will turn themselves in. Then Shigeru jumps back into the weirdness, lines them all up, and tells Seiji, still in Aldine mode, to strike them with his whip of love, so they can understand the pain they've caused others. But before it happens, Aldine turns back into Seiji, his rage cooling off. Seiji refuses to use the whip in anger. He wants each strike to come from empathy, not vengeance. He explains that love is about sharing in others' pain, not inflicting more of it. Then, in a strange display of affection-fueled justice, he gently slaps each gang member across the face. After the whole bizarre ordeal, Seiji carries the unconscious girls to their beds, handling everything himself since Shigeru says he's not allowed to touch women. Exhausted from the effort, Seiji collapses from overexertion. Of course, the peace doesn't last. The reformed mercenaries immediately revert to their old habits and start plotting another robbery. Seeing Shigeru as a useful human shield, Kiyoshiro invites him to join their crew, even promising access to some beautiful company if he agrees. But Shigeru isn't tempted. With everyone else out of commission, he finally has a chance to go all in, and he's ready. After breaking free from his restraints, Shigeru first gently drapes a blanket over Seiji, striking a heroic pose. But the mercenaries aren't impressed, questioning how someone who looks like a classic anime side character could possibly be a good guy. Regardless, Shigeru completely wipes the floor with them, though it seems the animators skipped animating the entire fight scene, likely to save the budget, cutting straight to the aftermath where the group is now loaded with cash for handing the mercenaries over. Seiji, feeling responsible for the recent chaos, suggests giving a cut of the reward to the girls, even though they spent most of the ordeal sleeping. He insists it's only fair, considering he risked everyone's safety by trusting someone he shouldn't have. The girls, however, reassure him not to beat himself up. They say he was actually really cool while acting under his alternate identity. When they ask if Shigeru had been conscious during the battle, Seiji jumps in to answer, saying Shigeru shielded him with his body during the chaos. Because Shigeru went so far to help despite being kind of useless normally, Seiji thinks he deserves part of the payout. But Shigeru immediately turns it down, saying if he takes anything, the money would feel worthless. Shigeru then uses this moment to exit the group. He says he'll be heading out after settling his debt with Seika. To do so, he requests Seiji to let Seika hold onto his portion of the money, giving some lame excuse that no one bothers questioning. Seika happily agrees and even offers to carry everyone's share, promising she'll manage it wisely, though realistically, she's likely to spend it all on shopping and other stuff. In the end, only Shigeru gives his portion to her. Overjoyed, Seika drags him off to a burger joint and treats him to a meal using his own cash. With his debt finally cleared, Shigeru plans to quietly slip away from the party after lunch. While munching on burgers, Seika becomes curious about his status screen. Shigeru plays it off, saying his stats are nothing special. Seika thinks it's a waste he didn't know earlier, and tells him that back when she first arrived in this world, she learned that lowering your appearance stat gives you extra points to boost your other abilities. Apparently, she sacrificed 16 full points from her looks to raise her other stats, leaving Shigeru wondering just how stunning she would have been without that trade-off. Noticing how Shigeru is closely watching her face, Seika bluntly asks if he thinks she's pretty. When he admits he does, she confesses that she actually scribbled a note asking to be beautiful before arriving here, which caused her appearance stat to override the deduction. Shigeru is stunned and immediately filled with regret. Just then, Seika notices a stray cat and gets excited but hesitates to go to it, explaining she's never tried before since she couldn't walk in her past life. As she stumbles, Shigeru instinctively leaps in front of her, once again playing the role of the unexpected hero. To his dismay, she doesn't trip or fall, she just looks at him and questions what he's up to. Flustered, he quickly claims he's working out to burn off extra calories. But both the audience and Seika know it's a weak excuse. She chooses to ignore him and continues petting the nearby cat. Meanwhile, Shigeru excuses himself, saying he needs to use the restroom. Inside, he's left alone with his thoughts, and his emotions begin to swell. He recalls her earlier words and expressions, especially when she praised her own appearance but avoided touching her face, instead placing her hands forward. Then came the moment she stood up and said she could walk. His mind connects the dots. Either she had a disability in her past life or she had difficulty socializing. Whatever the case, he finds it painful to think about and believes she deserved better in her previous life. While he sits there for quite a while, lost in reflection, she begins to worry. She knocks on the door, asking if he's feeling ill and offers to get him some medicine. Her thoughtfulness only deepens his emotional response. He wonders why someone so gentle had to endure such hardship. Then it hits him, he holds divine abilities, absolute powers. He remembers that he's essentially a god himself. With this in mind, he promises to give her the kind of life she was once denied. He wipes his tears, regains his composure, and heads out to join her. When they meet, she informs him that the others are waiting. But he lingers for a while longer, staying close to her. Soon after, they regroup with the rest of their companions. Seiji explains that since they're becoming a party, every member must take responsibility. Although Shigeru isn't particularly excited about the idea, he doesn't object to being part of a team and waits to see what unfolds. Seiji announces he'll be the hero. He then designates Seika as the mage, and suggests Shigeru should be their Epicfighter. Shigeru doesn't really want a role at all. He turns to Seika and asks if she wants the Epicfighter position, but she declines. She wants to be the hero too, the same title Seiji has already claimed. He refuses to relinquish it, so Shigeru proposes that she take the Epicfighter role instead. She insists on being the hero, but the group eventually moves on without settling it. Outfitted in their assigned gear, Shigeru observes how well prepared Seiji is. He's dressed perfectly for the hero role, with everything tailored and styled appropriately. Seika may not have hero clothing, but she still stylized herself with flair, mixing her mage outfit with decorative hero-like touches. Now their group consists of a hunter, a hero, a mage, and an epic fighter. Seiji then outlines their upcoming mission. They'll be heading to the Principality of Valeria. But he includes a strict rule: no one can spend more than 3 rira on snacks. This disappoints Seika, who loves her treats. After the meeting ends, she approaches the only other girl in their group and initiates a conversation. It's the first time she's made such a gesture, and Shigeru is quietly happy to see her trying to open up to someone. Seika invites the girl to try skipping rope with her. The girl agrees and goes off to change. While she's gone, Shigeru reflects on what led her to pick a skipping rope in the first place. Earlier, when they were out shopping for gear, she didn't like any of the usual weapons. But the moment she saw the skipping rope, she instantly connected with it and decided to buy it. The vendor assumed she practiced martial arts and advised her to handle the rope carefully. Afterward, Shigeru had asked her if he could give it a try. They found a quiet place, and he began showing her how to use it. He jumped impressively high, catching her by surprise at how effortlessly he moved. He encouraged her to give it a shot. By the end of the session, she felt like she had mastered it. She told Shigeru she wanted to talk to the other girl and learn how to skip rope together. She admitted she didn't even know the girl's name and wanted to become friends. Shigeru thought that was a great idea and supported her. That's what brought them to the spot where they are now. He quietly watches from behind as the girls skip together. After Seika finishes her turn, she hands the rope over. While the other girl starts using it, Seika asks her name. The girl suddenly blushes deep red. Seika senses she's hesitant to share her real name, understandable, given that they all left behind difficult pasts. So Seika decides to give her a new one, Leads. The girl lights up with joy and soars into the air. She rises so high that Shigeru is taken aback, wondering what her ability might be. He remembers how she came through their earlier battle unscathed. The villagers are amazed at her flight and cheer for her. Many parties invite her to join them. Caught up in the attention, she forgets about Seika. Seika tries calling her again and again, but Leads doesn't hear. This makes Seika cry. Shigeru tries to approach, but some villagers mock him and even warn him to back off. Leads notices and tells them that Seika and Shigeru are her party members. She rushes back to Seika, but Shigeru scolds her gently for ignoring the sweet girl who was calling her. They return home together, and Seika gradually relaxes. Later, Seika finds a letter from Leads, apologizing for what happened. After Seika leaves, Leads visits Shigeru. She leads him to a quiet room and bows, offering a deep apology. Curious, Shigeru asks her why. That's when she tells him she knows his real identity, he's Mr. Y. Shigeru is caught off guard but maintains his composure, asking Rise why she believes what she just said. She calmly explains that her chosen ability allows her to view others' status windows, including their true names, stats, and the personal notes they've written. Shigeru's expression tightens as he realizes she's read the private notes he jotted down, which make him come across like a bitter loner. He facepalms and asks Rise directly what she wants from him. Rise brings up Seika and questions whether Shigeru has figured out that her body had been paralyzed in a previous life. He confirms his suspicion, and Rise wastes no time revealing that she was the one responsible for Seika's condition back then, and that she's here to make amends. Curious, Shigeru presses her for details about what exactly happened. Rise explains that in her former life, she was involved in a program meant to improve people's lives. Seika had been one of the children under their care, and Rise had truly hoped to help her live a better life. But then a tragic explosion destroyed their facility, leaving Seika gravely injured. Tears begin streaming down Rise's face as she recalls her failure to prevent the catastrophe. Miscommunication and errors among those working in the program had led to the disaster, and the guilt has haunted her ever since. To avoid repeating those mistakes, she had written in her special note that she wanted the power to better understand others, and that wish manifested in her current ability. When Shigeru asks about the nature of the program, she reveals it was linked to artificial intelligence. This rings a bell for Shigeru, who remembers that Sage's company collapsed due to a malfunctioning AI system and a subsequent explosion. He puts 2 and 2 together and asks if it's the same incident. Rise confirms it, and reveals she is actually Sage's sister, though she has altered her behavior and personality in this new world to prevent him from recognizing her. Still uncertain, Shigeru questions the truth of her story, but Rise insists she cannot lie, it was the trade-off she made to gain her power. She believes it's not mere coincidence that they all ended up in this world at the same time. Their fates, she claims, have been tied together even before this life. She knows Shigeru is trying to ensure Seika's happiness and help guide Seiji to become a stronger adventurer, and she offers her help in that mission. Shigeru agrees, noting that both Seiji and Seika are kind-hearted and naive, needing someone reliable to protect and support them. He decides to work with Rise, but is completely baffled when she suddenly cuts her hair short as a symbolic gesture. She explains it's because Seika once said she looked better with short hair. With that odd moment behind them, the two officially team up, vowing to support their mutual friends. The next day, they prepare for their journey to the capital. Shigeru arranges a strange beast, a turtle-goat hybrid, to help carry their gear. Rise is the last to join the group, and when Seika compliments her new haircut, she becomes emotional, clearly touched by the kindness. Their journey begins as they encounter a group of wild creatures. Seika uses her ice magic to freeze one, and as another lunges at her, Seiji steps in to defend her, with Rise handling threats from behind. The group quickly overcomes the monsters, and Seika showcases her magical talent to Shai-Drew, who silently acknowledges her skill. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, Seiji suggests finding a spot to rest for the night, and everyone agrees. Their destination is the city of Valeria, and due to Seika's desire for an adventurous route, they've taken a dangerous path through monster-infested mountains with no shelter options. Fortunately, they discover a large hollow tree that serves as a makeshift shelter, which Seika finds exciting. Seiji asks if she wants to gather firewood or try fishing. Eagerly, Seika vows to catch the biggest fish in the river, only to end up hooking her own robe. Shai-Drew helps her get untangled and joins her at the riverbank. While waiting for a bite, Seika unexpectedly opens up, confessing that she cries easily and wants to grow into someone more composed. Shai-Drew reassures her, saying that crying isn't a weakness. He explains that people cry not just from sadness, but also when overwhelmed by powerful emotions. He reflects on his own past and adds that losing the ability to cry can stunt emotional growth. Instead of trying to suppress her tears, he advises Seika to understand what stirs her heart. Touched by his words, Seika tears up again. At that moment, Riz arrives. Upon learning they haven't caught anything, she effortlessly zaps a few fish out of the river and hands them to Seika. Excited, Seika runs back to share them with Seiji. Meanwhile, Riz tells Shai-Drew that Seika always seems genuinely happy around him. She adds that his presence brings comfort and smiles to others, making him a valuable part of their group. Shai-Drew, a bit embarrassed, prepares to leave, but Riz stops him. She asks him to keep her true identity a secret, fearing it might cause division in the group. He agrees. When they return to camp, Seiji and Seika are already preparing dinner. As they settle down to eat, Seika imitates Riz playfully, and Shai-Drew turns to Seiji with a thoughtful question: what does he see as the ultimate goal of their journey? Seiji becomes serious and replies that, for now, reaching Valeria is their immediate target. He wants to better understand the world and its issues before deciding on their purpose. Shai-Drew is impressed by his mindset, but just then, a noise rustles in the nearby bushes. A badly injured and worn-out woman stumbles out of the forest and collapses just as Shai-Drew's group notices her presence. While unconscious, she dreams of being chased by bandits, reflecting on how her reincarnation into this world hasn't helped her survive real danger. She blames her strange personal note for her helplessness. In her former life, she considered herself unattractive and experienced heartbreak when her boyfriend left her for someone more beautiful. Constant ridicule from peers led her to harbor resentment toward attractive women. Her dream ends abruptly, and she awakens in the camp, with Seiji tending to her injuries. Seiji reassures her that they've cleaned her wounds and applied basic treatment. Soon after, Seika arrives with warm water to help clean her further. The woman instinctively flinches, clearly uncomfortable with Seika's beauty. Seiji explains that Seika used healing magic to help her, but it doesn't improve her mood. When Seika tries to be friendly, the woman grows visibly irritated and asks Seiji to move her closer to the campfire. Seika is disheartened, but Shai-Drew reminds her that not everyone welcomes sudden closeness, especially strangers. He also warns her to stay away from the woman, as he knows something unsettling about her. Back when the woman collapsed, Seiji asked Shai-Drew to fetch water. On the way, Riz stopped him with a grave expression, revealing that the injured woman was also a reincarnator. Her note contained a disturbing vow to never forgive beautiful girls and to harm them brutally. They immediately suspected Seika might be her target. In the present, Seiji offers the woman, who introduces herself as Ria, some food. She accepts, but when Seika brings her a bowl, Ria's deep-seated bitterness resurfaces. She tries to grab a weapon, but fortunately Riz had already confiscated it and is quietly keeping watch. Shai-Drew also remains alert, ready to intervene. When asked about her injuries, Ria claims that her group was attacked and she got separated. Shai-Drew doubts the full truth of her story, but Seiji offers her protection until they reach Valeria. She accepts the offer, though her reaction to Seika's encouragement reveals lingering hostility, causing her to accidentally aggravate her wounds. Seiji advises her to stay calm, but Ria says she needs to visit the river. She asks Seika to accompany her, but Seiji steps in, offering to help instead. When he does, Ria retorts with suspicion, accusing him of being a pervert for trying to join her near the river if she was planning to bathe. Seiji becomes visibly embarrassed, and Seika innocently questions whether he might be a pervert. The sheer emotional blow causes Seiji to pass out. Seiji moves to check on him. Ria warns him that if he comes within 10 feet of her, she'll start screaming. Seiji responds that he has no desire to get close anyway. Just then, Riz appears and offers to escort Ria to the river. However, since Ria can't lie, her true emotions are on full display. Shai-Drew wishes she would at least mask her violent aura, which clearly unsettles Ria. Because of that, she requests that Seika take her instead. Seika agrees and even returns Ria's weapon in case monsters appear. This alarms Shai-Drew, who feels that giving her the weapon makes things more dangerous. Riz decides to quietly follow them to ensure Seika's safety. Shai-Drew also attempts to follow but is stopped by Seiji, who argues that they should give the girls their privacy. Shai-Drew protests, calling Ria a threat, and Seiji agrees, saying the allure of a mature woman is a dangerous thing. Shai-Drew doesn't want to hear Seiji's dramatic sentiments, but to avoid raising suspicion, he uses high-speed movement to keep switching between locations, watching over both groups. Seiji briefly sees his blurred image and comments on it, but Shai-Drew brushes it off, saying Seiji must be tired. He encourages Seiji to rest, then discreetly casts a sleep spell to put him out. With Seiji safely asleep, Shai-Drew goes to check on Ria. There, he sees her draw a sword on Seika. Shocked, Seika asks if he's done something wrong. Ria insists Seika is kind and innocent but reveals that she's bound by the vows she made in her personal notebook. She explains that she harbors deep hatred for beautiful girls due to trauma from her past life and made a vow to eliminate them in this world. She infiltrated multiple adventuring parties, targeting the attractive female members, and fled before she could be caught, until now. She declares Seika as her next target and raises her blade, but Riz shoots it out of her hand just in time. Ria lunges to retrieve it, but Shai-Drew intercepts her, grabbing her wrist. She demands he release her, but he draws his sword and says she has nowhere to run. Suddenly, a blinding light envelops the area. Everyone shields their eyes, trying to locate the source. To their astonishment, it's Seika, now radiating with a divine glow, appearing like an actual angel. Seika drifts slowly toward Ria, assuring her that there's no need for more pain. Ria, however, warns her to stay back unless she wants to die. But the agony from her missing arm intensifies, and she collapses to the ground. Seika gently asks if she truly wants to cause suffering, and Ria admits she doesn't, but she feels trapped by what she has written in her special notes. Shai-Drew can only sympathize, thinking how tragic it is that the girl has been forced into becoming like a female Jeffrey Dahmer because of them. Yet Seika refuses to believe it's hopeless. She glides closer, but Ria pushes her hands away. Still, Seika clasps her palms together and prays for her to stop hurting. In that moment, a radiant light bursts from her touch, and to everyone's shock, Ria's severed arm regenerates instantly. Overwhelmed, Ria stares at her restored limb, while Shai-Drew is stunned. Despite being a god himself, he cannot perform such miracles. Seika then reveals that in her special notes, she once wrote that if her friends were in pain, she wished to become an angel to heal them and restore what they had lost. Hearing this, Ria breaks down in tears, realizing Seika sees her as a friend. Seika then shares a piece of her past, explaining how she once bore a horrible scar and had even lost an eye, vowing never to let others endure what she had. Though she admits she cannot erase Ria's emotional scars, she insists that together they might find a way to heal those too. But Ria snaps, demanding Seika leave her, and cruelly calls her ugly. Then, with sudden clarity, she declares she's no longer interested in Seika because her tear-streaked face is hideous, and bolts away. Seika is left hurt and bewildered, while Riz decides to pursue Ria to see what she intends to do. In the meantime, Seika reverts back to her normal form and collapses, only to be caught just in time by Shai-Drew. Elsewhere, Ria isolates herself, etching something into a tree before lifting her blade toward her own face. But before she can strike, Shai-Drew rushes in and smacks the weapon from her grip, warned by Riz that she intended to blind herself so her notes could no longer dictate her fate. Ria asks if he's come to kill her, but Shai-Drew answers that he hasn't sunk to that level. He explains that if she harms her eyes, Seika will be devastated, though he understands her desperation. As an alternative, he proposes a deal: she can lose her vision without destroying her eyes. Curious, Ria asks how this is possible, and Shai-Drew demonstrates a forbidden art, the Five-Finger Underworld Seal, a dark ability that seals away one of the five senses while granting even greater strength in return. Startled, Ria demands to know what kind of man possesses such sorcery, and Shai-Drew calmly replies that he's just a merchant running low on supplies. He assures her that this is the best option he can give. blinding her without physical harm. He also explains to her that the spell will remain active unless countered by a strong light-based incantation, meaning it likely won't be lifted anytime soon. Raya then questions why he is going to such lengths for Seika, assuming his motive is simply because she's attractive. Shadru denies being that shallow and admits that he made some mistakes with his personal research. He adds that in the beginning, he couldn't place his faith in anyone, not even his own companions. But Seiko treated him with kindness despite his rough looks, so he feels compelled to repay that kindness. Raya comments that it must be comforting to have such a party, and Shadru suggests she join them, assuring her that Seiji would welcome her once he hears about her struggles. She declines, saying her past sins are too heavy and she now wishes to forge her own path. Still, she agrees to his proposal of blinding her, and Shadru swiftly uses his ability on her. Later, he returns to Seiko, who has just regained consciousness. He explains how her powers restored Riaya's arm, which makes Seika cheerful, thinking she could use this gift to aid many more people. Shadru, however, warns her to keep her abilities hidden since they are far too precious. She questions this, so he explains that in stories, treasures often get stolen, and her gift would be treated the same way. Hearing this makes Seika a little downcast, and Shadru reinforces his point by claiming Riaya attacked her because of her beauty. He cautions her to stay vigilant against malicious people, and when Seika asks what she should do, he advises her not to distrust everyone but to carefully watch their actions and judge whether they are allies or threats. Seika brightens up at this, and Shadru further assures her that if she still encounters danger even after being cautious, she should call out his name, and he will rush to protect her. He tells her it's okay to stumble once or twice since he will be there to support her, and she becomes deeply moved. Seika then extends her hand for a handshake to seal their promise. Even though he knows it will cause him intense harm, Shadru takes her hand anyway. Agonizing pain shoots through him, yet he suppresses it to avoid hurting her in return. The following day, Shadru informs Seiji that Riaya had departed the previous night and left a message for Seika before leaving. He brings the group to the tree where Riaya had carved her words. In the message, she thanks Seika for mending both her body and heart, and vows to come to her aid should they ever cross paths again. Seika becomes emotional after reading it, and Seiji laments that they couldn't give her a proper farewell. But Shadru reassures them that Riaya left content, saying she would walk her own road. With that, the group continues their journey toward the city of Valyria. As Seiji and Sokka eagerly chat about exploring the new city, Ri silently reflects on the conversation she shared with Shadru the night before. He explained that he had taken away Riaya's vision so she wouldn't harm girls anymore. Rhys was shocked, even more so when she saw Seika's sudden transformation, since her special notes never mentioned anything like that. On the other hand, Seiji's notes gave a lengthy, overly detailed, and downright embarrassing breakdown of his transformation, the memory of which still sent shivers down Riz's spine. Shadru then told her that he needed the complete version written down, because he wanted to see if Seiji had any flaws that could be dangerous in the future. Although Riz was horrified at the thought, she still agreed. Shadru assured her that there was no rush, only that he wanted the weaknesses by the time Seiji made his choice. He reminded Riz that Seiji once said he wanted to explore the world first before deciding on the purpose of their journey. Shadru already had in mind what he considered the perfect objective. He believed Seiji should aim to become a king. From what Kyoshiro the conman told him, even outsiders had the chance to rise as rulers in this land. He explained to Riz that Seika was far too innocent and naive about reality, while Seiji, though familiar with the cruelty of the world, still kept her heart untainted. To Shadru, that balance made him the ideal candidate to rule, someone who could protect pure souls like Seika. Riz countered that Shadru himself could take that role. But Shadru laughed it off, saying his declining earnings would make his kingdom the poorest around, and he lacked the qualities of a true leader. Seiji, however, carried a natural charisma that drew people in, and he could guide them through anything. Returning to the present, Shadru and Riz had their own agenda, separate from the other two members. Their current focus was to help Seiji and Seika grow stronger, which wouldn't be hard since a massive wave of monsters stood before them. Seiji rallied the group, declaring they would cut through the horde and make it to the city gates. Yet, just as they charged forward, he abruptly halted, claiming he had to fix his shoelaces. Though his shoes had more laces than the zeros in my bank account, Seika believed him and kept running. Shadru followed after her, raising a wall of wind to shield her path, then glanced back to see Seiji screaming like Goku as he powered into his Super Saiyang Angel state. Shadru thought the whole shoelace excuse had been pointless, but then remembered that Sage's clothes tore apart with every transformation, and they weren't cheap. Thankfully, Seiji remembered too, carefully removing his costly outfit, folding it neatly, and only then beginning his shouting ritual again. Meanwhile, Shadru devised a way for Seika to gain more experience as well. He quickly spotted some ruins they could use for cover, but soon the monsters began scaling the walls. Reese proposes that they strike first and push the enemies back, and Seika quickly agrees with her plan. Shadru invokes the Almighty God's blessing on them, boosting their stats so they won't struggle. He then chooses to prolong the fight without killing any monsters outright, summoning mud golems to safely hold the creatures at bay. Turning back, he checks on Seiji, only to be frustrated that Seiji is still yelling, since his transformation relies on anger, and he currently lacks a reason to be enraged. Then, Seiji recalls the moment when an intern once stepped on his shoe, and that small irritation fuels his transformation without shredding his clothes this time. Charging downhill, Shadru can't help but wonder why Seiji even bothers having wings. Seiji climbs atop the ruins where the rest of the group is stationed, and Reese nearly dies of second-hand embarrassment at his ridiculous antics. Seiji introduces himself under the alias Hero Aldine, leaps down dramatically, and annihilates the monsters with his unique powers. Seika is amazed by his performance, though Reese struggles to hold back her disgust at his cringe-worthy display. Seiji continues fighting minor enemies until he encounters a massive stone golem. At that point, he cancels his ability, deciding to farm aura later by flying and using other techniques. With that strategy, he finishes off the monsters and disappears, only to return moments later in his regular form. Seika, completely oblivious, gushes about how incredible the hero was, never once suspecting that Seiji and Aldine were the same. Seiji beams at the praise and secretly craves more recognition from the others. Shiga, however, starts questioning whether it's wise to entrust such a narcissistic fool with the role of king. Before long, they arrive in Valeria, a bustling city brimming with excitement. The central plaza is lively with cheerful citizens, and a towering castle dominates the heart of the settlement. Strangely enough, right beside the castle stands a job center, which makes Shadru pity the countless wage slaves clustered around it. Afterward, they return the beast that had carried their supplies to the stable, but the caretaker refuses to let Seiji bring another animal along. Though usually tolerant, Shadru loses his temper when he himself is compared to an animal, and his furious glare terrifies the man. Just then, Seika notices a creature resembling Shadru, much to his shock. She finds it adorable, though that's hardly surprising, as she tends to think everything is cute. The group then wanders through the city, with Sokka constantly distracted by trivial things. Shadru observes that while the world appears bright and happy, it poses serious challenges for outsiders like them. The worst issue of all is that monsters don't drop currency, forcing them to seek a reliable source of income to survive and progress. Shadru considers using his divine abilities to solve the problem instantly, but worries that such shortcuts would ruin the innocent fools in his party. He decides he must approach things more carefully. That night, at the inn, Seiji tells Shadru that he asked around and learned they'll need proper jobs if they want to earn money. Shadru feels disheartened realizing that even in another world, they still have to chase employment. Seiji then explains further, here, a monthly wage of 2,000 ryas is considered respectable. Shadru wonders aloud if there's really no reward for taking down monsters like they did the day before. Seiji explains that unless the guild officially assigns them a quest to slay monsters, there won't be any payment. Shadru then remembers seeing some high-paying listings at the job center. One of them was for a detective's assistant that offered 10,000 ryas monthly, and another was a garbage collection job paying 28,000 ryas each month. He mentions these to Seiji, pointing out how strange it is that they required no skills or prior experience. He jokes that he can totally imagine Seika getting tempted by those jobs, so he plans to keep her away from them. Seiji agrees, saying that stable jobs only provide an average living, while the ones offering unusually high pay are either shady or demand expertise they don't have. Then, an idea strikes him, and he asks Shadru what he thinks about checking out the casino. Shadru is startled, surprised that even their supposed hero would suggest gambling. But Seiji quickly clarifies that he's not there to gamble seriously. He just wants to gather intel. He explains that in the market, he only came across ordinary folk earning ordinary wages, but in a casino, they're bound to meet unusual people with unique professions or lots of money. He insists that for people like them, information is the most valuable resource, and he intends to use it to secure a future where his party can live comfortably without worries. Shadru actually finds the reasoning solid, and the following evening, the group heads into a lavish casino. Seika immediately jumps into a game of chance, while a waitress offering Shadru a refill visibly recoils at his appearance. The other guests look at him with the same distaste, but he doesn't take it personally. To her delight, Seika wins her very first round and gets hyped up about it. Meanwhile, Seiji chats around to collect intel, and Riz quietly works her own ways of digging up useful details. As this goes on, Seika decides to wager everything she won in a single bet, only to lose it all instantly. She continues playing for a short while before stopping for food, ordering a burger when hunger kicks in. Shadru asks about her losses, and she casually admits she's down by around 20,000 riras, enough to make him want to pull his hair out from stress. At that moment, the casino's manager approaches Seika, saying he had noticed her bold gambling earlier and wanted to know more about her financial background. With full confidence, Seika brags that she's wealthy, leaving Shadru panicked that he failed to stop her from saying something so reckless. The manager, Kajita, lights up with excitement and starts laying on compliments. He invites her to his office for a private discussion, which she only agrees to after making sure Shadru can accompany her as protection. Once inside, a servant serves Seika a cup of hot cocoa while Shadru scans the luxurious office, thinking about how much money the casino must be making. Suddenly, Kajita begins praising Seika, calling her decisiveness to go all in remarkable. He tells her that true wealthy gamblers should play like that, which makes her blush with pride. He then says he was so impressed that he has a special opportunity for her, pulling out a golden extra stage pass, an exclusive VIP card that grants access to premium games beyond what ordinary customers can play. He explains that normally their joining fee and membership costs at up to 20,000 riras, but for her, he'll make a rare exception and lower it all the way to zero. Seika is tempted, though she mentions that she'll still need to cover the membership charges next year. Shadru feels proud seeing her finally grow cautious of shady deals, but Kajita isn't ready to give up yet. With a smooth smile, he assures Seika that her membership fees will be permanently cancelled, insisting that he wants her to enjoy VIP treatment forever. Seika questions why he is offering her such treatment, and Kajita responds that her gambling style left him deeply impressed, and he wishes to witness more of her play. She's clearly tempted, so she turns to Shadru for advice. He thinks there's no real danger in just taking a membership card, but advises that she consult Seiji first. Seika agrees with that suggestion, and Kajita casually adds that she can speak to her friend, and if he happens to be wealthy, Kajita would also like to meet him. Seika mentions that Seiji does have money, though not nearly as much as she herself, and Shadru can't help but worry about what lies ahead for her. Soon after, they exit the room, and Seika remarks how kind the manager seemed. Just then, Riz arrives looking uneasy. As Seika heads off to find Seiji, Shadru lingers to hear Riz's concerns. She reveals disturbing news: Kajita is a reincarnator as well, and in his private notes, he swore not to be tricked again and vowed to ruin wealthy individuals. According to Riz, his goal is to bleed the rich dry and drag them down to ruin, and she isn't confident that even Shadru could match him in his dangerous games. Later, the group gathers at their inn, and Seika recounts her encounter with Kajita. Everyone agrees his behavior is suspicious, leaving Seika feeling disheartened. Seiji asks Shadru for his impression of the manager, and Shadru answers that Kajita is highly skilled at manipulating people into thinking they are unique, only to deceive them. Fortunately, Seika resisted, though he suspects others may not be so lucky. At this point, Seiji presents his findings. He explains that he interviewed several people who had accepted lucrative jobs from the job center. Strangely, every path eventually led back to the casino, and not a single person cleared the requirements. The only exception was a friend of someone named Kai, who landed a position as an assistant to a detective, tasked with tracking individuals who recklessly overspent at the casino. Matters grew darker when Seiji revealed that this friend had since gone missing. When Seiji went to investigate at the man's home, the entire house had vanished, the land was listed for sale, and even the family records were erased. To make matters worse, the police refused to file a missing person report, behaving as if the man had never existed at all. Shadru becomes convinced that Kajita is the mastermind behind it. He then notices Riz hesitating, clearly nervous about sharing what she knows, so he signals her that he will stand by her regardless. Feeling reassured, Riz passes Seiji an object she had picked up near the back entrance of the casino. As Seiji and Shadru unwrap the cloth, they are horrified to discover a severed human finger, quickly shielding Seika from the gruesome sight. Reese explains that she had been searching around the back door when she noticed a man carrying something heavy on his back. The finger slipped from the bundle he was carrying, and she only realized its true nature when she looked closely. For a moment, she struggled to decide whether to chase the man or secure the grisly evidence. Seiji reassures her that she chose wisely, since chasing after the other man alone would have been reckless. He is now convinced the casino is hiding something suspicious and insists they need to dig deeper. Seika quickly offers to infiltrate undercover because Kajita specifically approached her. Rize and Kai-Drew both caution her, warning that wealthy people like her are prime prey, but Seika responds that she is furious about Kajita's treachery and the harm he's caused. She declares that he must be stopped no matter the cost, prompting Shadru to look towards Seiji, urging him to restrain her. Instead, Seiji becomes even more determined, which drives both him and Rize into a frenzy. Later, Shadru steps outside with Rize to talk privately, asking about Kajita's abilities since she mentioned even the absolute god couldn't defeat him. Rize admits she didn't see everything, but one of his powers allows him to see through any lie, which likely activates his other abilities. Still, she adds that his status screen looked completely unnatural, like it had been copied, patched, and distorted many times. She warns Shadru to be cautious and never attempt to lie to Kajita, not even jokingly. Shadru then drapes his robe over Rize and reassures her that things will be fine. He remarks that they only came to earn some money but stumbled upon true wickedness, and now they must put an end to it. Rize agrees, sharing another detail from her unique note. She had written that if genuine evil appeared before her, she would become a herald of hell and drag it into darkness, startling Shadru as she begins to partially transform. The following night, Seika dresses elegantly and strides with confidence toward the casino, telling Shadru that appearances matter if she is to uncover the truth about Kajita. She believes she can succeed because Rize and Shadru trained her to conceal the truth without outright lying. Soon they arrive, where Kajita greets them personally. He asks Seika if she has reached a decision on his proposal, and she responds that if he can show her a game thrilling enough, she will agree to join. Pleased, he tells her to follow him along with his rough-looking bodyguard, while Shadru muses that he'll allow the manager to act arrogant before exposing his corruption. Kajita escorts Seika and Shadru down into the hidden VIP lounge. Aware of Kajita's lie detection skill, Shadru knows their best defense is withholding as much as possible. For now, they've only given Seika's name for the VIP pass, and he wonders what their next move should be. At that moment, Kajita casually asks Seika how much she intends to wager, hinting she might be ready to gamble 1,000,000 riras. Seika shoots back, asking if he's underestimating her, which quickly darkens Kajita's expression. He then escorts them into the VIP section, where the atmosphere feels entirely different from the main casino. Seika enjoys the refined energy of the place, and Kajita introduces one of his staff members who will serve as their guide. The man, Kato, introduces himself but nervously stumbles through his explanations of how the area works. Shadru assumes Kato must be inexperienced, but he doesn't have much time to watch him because Kajita approaches again, asking Shadru if he wants to gamble as well. Shadru realizes Kajita is trying to extract information from him since Seika is keeping her guard up. He responds that he can't participate because he doesn't have any money, which is entirely true. Shadru then activates his ability, Dynamic Vision, allowing him to perceive everything happening in the room while still conversing with Kajita. He notices a spy taking notes on everyone, including Seika, a flashy young woman with a spending budget exceeding 1,000,000 riras. Suddenly, Kajita asks Shadru if he is strong, to which he confidently replies that he is. Kajita follows up, asking whether Shadru's level is over 70. Shadru gives a deliberately vague response that conceals his actual level while technically not lying. Next, Kajita inquires about his stats, and Shadru admits that he distributed his skill points carelessly, leaving many zeros in his attributes, such as magic defense. This is also technically true. After all, 1,000,000,000,000 contains plenty of zeros, but the spy interprets it as poor allocation of points. He notes that Shadru focused his points on warrior-like traits, while his magic defense is weak and could be exploited. At that moment, an employee comes to call Kajita to assist a customer, and he quickly tells Seika he needs to leave. He asks her if she wants to watch something interesting, like monster battles, and she replies that she'll consider it. Kajita departs, leaving Kato responsible for Seika, who struggles to manage her, likely because this is his first day on the job. Meanwhile, Kajita escorts the client, and Shadru is startled to see another overweight, unattractive man who looks exactly like his former life boss. He silently hopes this isn't the same person, while his eyes catch Kajita's notepad, which contains a liberation plan. Seika, in the meantime, is throwing tantrums and pressuring Kato to take her to the most entertaining games. Shadru smirks, pleased that she understands her role perfectly, to fuss and linger as long as possible without spending much money. Feigning a stomachache, he asks Kato for the restroom's location. Kato decides to guide him, but Seika pulls him back, scolding him to focus on the customers. Taking advantage of the distraction, Shadru explores the casino on his own. He first drains a guard's energy to incapacitate him and then uses his skills to transform into a bat. He searches for Kajita and sees him entering a hidden room. Shadru quickly sneaks in and uses another skill to create a portal connecting him to Seika's location, allowing him to reach her instantly if needed. Seeing she's handling herself well, Shadru turns his attention to an unusual statue on the opposite side of the room. Kajita approaches the statue and speaks to his parents, assuring them that everything is proceeding as planned. He recalls the lessons his parents taught him, that some things are more valuable than money. Though they were never wealthy, they emphasized living honestly. Tragically, their honesty cost them their lives when they refused to vacate their home for a corporate project. The company retaliated by smashing a truck into their house, killing both parents. That horrific event changed Kajita completely. He became an assassin, dedicating his life to eliminating those responsible for his parents' deaths. After completing his life's mission, he had resolved to end his own life as well. But at that moment, an opportunity arose for him to enter this world, and he felt that it was his parents who had guided him here. In this world too, he witnessed the wealthy exploiting the poor and decided to make it his purpose to inflict suffering that would strip them of their worldly attachments. He asks his parents to continue watching over him, and Shaiju realizes that vengeance against the rich has become his sole reason for living. Just then, Kato and another employee arrive, informing Kajita that Seika is acting out, claiming she wants to leave because she finds nothing interesting. Kajita laughs and remarks that she must be intimidated by the high exchange rates, instructing them to implement strategy number 13 to lure her back. The employees agree and begin to leave, but Kajita halts the second one, sensing a lie in his words. His ability activates, draining the man of all life and leaving him a lifeless shell. He then calls a henchman to remove the body and turns to Kato, asking if he understands his role. Kato nervously replies that strategy number 13 means letting Seika win today to get her addicted, earning Kajita's praise for being straightforward and competent. Kato departs with unease, but Shadru gains insight into the mechanics of Kajita's power from the encounter. Meanwhile, Seika continues to win according to Kajita's plan, but Shadru cannot focus, unsettled by the recent death he witnessed. Suddenly, Seika commands him to pay attention, boasting that she has won 6 consecutive rounds. Shadru asks how much she has accumulated, and she reveals a total of 2 million riras. Kato and the dealer grow anxious as Seika wagers everything in the next round. Kato cautions her against going all in each time, but Seika insists that it is her style, unaware that the casino is deliberately letting her win to maintain her engagement. Fearing the casino's potential losses, Kato rushes to inform Kajita, leaving Shadru lost in thought. He reflects that his rule of taking 1,000th of his actual income does not apply to casino chips, since they aren't real money. At that moment, Kajita appears, congratulating Seika on her streak. Shadru notices Kato's bloated expression as Kajita informs Seika that skilled gamblers like her deserve even more thrilling challenges. Seika's curiosity piques, and Kajita reveals that he will take her to the Colosseum, an arena even more exclusive than the VIP section. She agrees to follow, and they descend further into the building, entering an underground arena housing numerous magical beasts in cages. Kajita explains that monster battles are the pinnacle of the casino's offerings, and she can wager money on creatures that fight to the death on her behalf. Seika becomes apprehensive at the explanation, and the roar of a beast startles her. Kajita seems to command the monster effortlessly, prompting Shadru to ask where it came from, having never seen such a creature in the wild. Kajita reveals that these are unique monsters bred by the casino, leaving Shadru stunned. He then turns to Seika and asks if she is interested. Seika was feeling quite uneasy, and Shadru sensed it was the right moment to head home. He subtly hints by bringing up Seiji and how thrilled he would be to see the monsters. Seika catches on immediately and tells Kajita that she wants to leave today to share the exciting events with Seiji. Kajita can't stop her and instructs Kadu to accompany her outside. While in the elevator, Seika notices Kadu's swollen cheek and uses her healing magic to mend it. Witnessing this act of kindness, Kato changes his stance. He urges Seika to flee and never return to the casino, warning that Kajita is hunting her. He confesses that countless wealthy individuals and even many of his own colleagues have perished at Kajita's hands, and even he lives in constant fear for his life. Shadru invites him to join them, but Kato is trapped. Kajita has all his information. Instead, he implores them to expose the casino's dark secret so that one day a hero might come to destroy it. That wish comes true immediately as Seiji, the hero Aldine, appears with Rize. Seika is surprised to see them together, while Rize, embarrassed, explains that they had met during a joint attempt to infiltrate the building. Seeing a real hero arrive moves Kato to tears, and Seiji comforts him before preparing to confront the casino manager. Shadru volunteers to accompany him, and Seiji retracts his wings to fit into the elevator. Kato joins them as well, explaining Kajita's terrifying ability to absorb the life and skills of anyone who deceives him. Upon reaching the VIP floor, Kato warns the guests to evacuate, revealing that the basement monsters are loose and could attack. Panic erupts as the customers flee, leaving employees confused and helpless. Kato then guides Seiji and Shadru toward the basement, but another employee commandeers the only elevator to warn Kajita ahead of them. As Kato panics at the sudden lack of access, Seika arrives in her angelic form. Seiji is shocked, having never seen her true form before, and demands to know who she is. Seika asks Shadru to keep her identity secret and introduces herself as Elkaron, the Maiden of the Sun, offering her healing magic to aid them in the upcoming fight. Seiji is relieved to have her on their side, and Shadru notes that they seem to be perfectly in sync. But it isn't just two opponents, they now face three. At that moment, Rize appears, transformed into a devil, and Shadru struggles to recognize her true identity. Before he can confirm, Rize strikes him with a weapon she conjures from thin air, not wanting her brother to discover who she really is. Seiji, however, is more intrigued by the weapon itself, and Rize explains that she can create weapons from her imagination. Both Seika and Seiji are impressed, and Rize generously equips them with additional weapons. The elevator returns just then, and the group boards it. Kato wants to join, but Seiji insists he stay behind. Shadru takes a gentler approach, asking Kato to collect evidence of the casino's crimes to expose its ties to the government office that allowed it to thrive. Kato accepts this task, while Shadru's group descends to the basement. Shadru instructs everyone to be cautious and tells them to leave Kajita to him, knowing the manager is irredeemably evil and should not be faced by innocent allies like Seiji and Seika. When they arrive in the basement, they discover that Kajita has already drained the life of the employee sent to warn him.